Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, optimize, implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is a recurring guest, Rabbi Shmuly Rothman. Hello, Shmuly.
Hello, Adi.
It's great to have you on this podcast again. Our first one, I got several comments on how good it was and how inspiring it was. And I'm looking forward for another inspiring episode where we're going to discuss how to make something possible that might seem impossible, and how to persist despite any obstacles. Those are the main points here that I think this conversation is going to lead us. I mean, of course, we'll have to see where the conversation goes, but those are the key points that I'll be very happy, and I'm sure you will as well, if at the end of the podcast, this is what our listeners got.
I'm game. I'd like to learn from you how to do all of that.
Okay, good. Let's do it. All right. So Shmuly, Shmuly, you are a client, but you are also a very dear friend, somebody that we think alike. I feel like we think alike. We share common morals, common values, and we look at the world in a very similar way, sometimes different, and we learn from each other, but we have a lot in common. So that is definitely who you are. And you live in a world of creating solutions before the problem begins. That's what you do in Rothman Coaching. You create a solution before the problem begins. And what we've been working on is we created a solution for your clients and also for potential clients that are not your clients yet, that is an order of magnitude that will basically change the world of Jewish leaders. And we're going to go over more in detail, but that's what it started with, a vision of how can we make things better, how we can make things better for them by identifying a problem before it started and coming up with a solution. That is in a nutshell basically what happened. We started with no one in the organization, and now it is growing and thriving organization that provides help with amazing success stories. Is that an accurate statement, or do you want to add anything to it?
I would ask you to switch out the word amazing and describe what that success story sounds like when it comes back to you.
The success story sounds, the reason why I say amazing, because the reaction is like, wow, we did that. And when it comes back as real help with ability to expand at areas that before that, the person that was helped didn't recognize that it's possible, didn't recognize that that help is possible, and didn't even think about those solutions, that it wasn't in their mind and they were not thinking with it.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, and I think that is the brilliance of any solution that you find, is that you anticipate what it's going to solve and then put it into place where it works every single time for every single person that uses it correctly. I think that's the power of a true solution.
And it'll never have the same end result because different people will use it differently. So we're not measuring mine compared to yours for my organization where I was feeling like this wasn't possible and now it is. That's a win.
Absolutely. So I'll let you tell a little bit more about the organization that you started here, and let's start with that.
Well, give me a pointed question.
That's a pointed question.
It's too
explain
open-ended.
about the organization. Like, what are you doing? Who do you serve? And what is the solution that you came up with?
The focus of Rothman Coaching is helping Chabad shluchim, Chabad rabbis around the world succeed in their mission to create welcoming Jewish centers for the Jewish community and interact positively with the broader non-Jewish community as well.
Good. For those listeners that are not familiar with Chabad, let's just define it very quickly.
Chabad.org, Chabad.org. You'll get everything you need to know. Chabad is a worldwide Jewish organization established by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson of blessed memory, and his teachings of over 40 years of leadership continue to inspire a team of over 6,000 rabbis worldwide in creating open, warm, welcoming, friendly Jewish centers wherever Jews find themselves, intentionally or not intentionally. There should always be a welcoming place for them to come into and feel connected to the Jewish community.
Excellent. So now you are helping the rabbis who are called shluchim, which means it's like a missionaire, basically. Like it's like similar to the word, like if you translate from Hebrew, it's very similar to the word missionaire, wouldn't you say?
I would say emissaries, messengers.
Emissaries, right. So you're working with the emissaries to help them grow their organization by, I would say, overcoming limiting beliefs, seeing what's possible, what's more than possible, and guiding them through that in order to accomplish that.
Okay.
What would you add to it?
No, it's when you said limiting beliefs, I thought that tripped my brain, because I think every human, as long as they're alive, they have they're faced every day with limiting beliefs to test their ability to climb onto God's bandwagon and think godly, think larger. So it's not their limited beliefs. It's everybody's got a limiting. If whenever human being is living without that limited belief that is challenging us, then we look different, we act different, the world's a better place. But you said it, I think you said it right. And one of the unique challenges that face this particular clientele is because they're mission driven. They have $1 and a dream, and they go out to create the solution, not because they have millions of dollars and infrastructure and support and a community that's saying, please come, we want you and we're going to support you. In each location, it's grassroots, it's grounds up, it's organic. And part of the process is being a leader for the community while learning how to create a sustainable organization, fund that sustainable organization, which comes from generosity of either people who care about the mission or are benefiting from the services. And rabbis go to rabbi school. They don't go to business school.
Right.
And our job, one of the goals at Rothman Coaching is let the rabbis be the rabbis and bring them the support needed to succeed in building and then scaling the organization.
That's true. Okay, so now let's talk about the branch of the business that is the DRM, the donor relation managers, that you came up with that idea. And there might be help, but develop that idea, and we have that idea, and you made it into a reality of actually having a thriving organization with great success stories that are working. So how did that happen? How did you get from point A to point B?
So let's first put credit where credit's due. And that is, there's a saying a Jewish saying, which is, Omer davar b'shem amro mevi geula le'olam. When you say something in the name of the person who the quote comes from, you bring redemption to the world. So the idea came from Mrs. Mushki Lewis of mushkiinc.com. Check it out. A brilliant practitioner in her own right. And in talking with her, she said, I shared an idea that I'm coaching clients one-on-one. We're having great high strategy conversations and nothing garnished. Shum davar, the line goes dry, because from sitting in a high-level strategy conversation to implementing, there was a major break in the system.
Right.
We finish the conversation, we get busy being a leader in our organization, a community leader, and there was no manpower or women power to carry it through. So I said to Mushki in a conversation, I said, I think I need to train somebody who can play this role in this particular organization. She said, you need to train, you need to create a team of people who can then do this in multiple organizations all over the place. And that's when I turned to, I think her name is Adi Klevit. And we had already been working with each other on a different part of developing my coaching practice. I shared the idea with you, the light bulb went off on your head and said, oh, I know how to do that. I said, great, teach me.
That's right. And Shmuly, you are very good at vision. You are a visionary, a true visionary. How do you feel about systems?
As long as we don't turn them into a false god, I feel great about them.
Absolutely.
Which is the same thing you asked me, how do I feel about AI? As long as we use it as a tool to move the product ahead without removing the human intellect, the HI, I feel great about it.
Same here. So what we did is we took your idea and we implemented systems as not as a all by itself, like a whole encompassing thing by itself, but as a tool to push forward the idea or push forward the vision.
Correct. There was a very slow and steady, I would almost say purposefully unhurried process of you pulling out of my head, what does the end result look like? And then designing it in order to get to that end result, what needs to be in place, what information is needed, what training is needed, how do we identify who the right person is, what hiring is needed, and take it all the way back so that the starting point, another Hebrew term, na'ut safam betchilatan, the end is rooted in the beginning, and the beginning is rooted in the end. So when you know, I think I once heard in the name of, I don't remember where I read it or heard it, the owner of Maxwell House Coffee was asked, how did you build up what you built? And his answer was, the day before I launched, I knew where I wanted to be. I knew where I was, I knew where I wanted to be, and I had a path of how to get there. So to me, that's a nice quote that was meaningless till I entered this, this project and this journey with you, where you were able to say, I've built it for others, so I know what the end result is. Come with me on the journey, and I'll teach you how to set it all up for success.
Absolutely. But one thing, Shmuly, that really resonated with me by working with you, and that is very important, is that you don't like to cut corners. You're very thorough, and you said, okay, we are going to do it right. So even if we have to wait that amount of time to make it right, let's do that. And you're always looking at how to make it right, but not how to make it hurriedly. Doesn't mean that we are not going to make it happen. We don't have to interject an extra amount of time, but instead of rushing through something, it was very important for you to do it correctly from the standpoint of correctly training your people, correctly hiring enough amount of people so you can service your clients. That was a very, that's very important for you, is actually creating the organization before you even start operating, which is not the case sometimes when you have to bootstrap things, or you just decide, hey, let's go all in and let's see what happens. You know, I just do it and then throw everything in the air, and whatever falls somewhere, you know, it was like the spaghetti against the wall. It was definitely a different experience.
Yeah, and I think there's I've been accused in the past of being too calculated. And if you're too calculated in life, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to become a brain on a shelf, and what are you doing here? So there's a combination of, can I predict where it might go wrong and fix it before that happens, along with take action. So it's not 100% perfect. Go get started. And I kind of live in that realm of, if it's between 65 and 85% good, launch it. Otherwise, you end up the next CEO of a company with great ideas and a pile of unfinished projects because none of them are perfect, which means usually I'm too weak to face the world, so I'll hide behind my unperfect projects, and that's not productive.
No, it's not. So how do you find the balance?
I got a good coach.
Thank you. But what did you learn from it? So how would you, like, if you had to now advise somebody else, like, how would you find a balance?
How do I find the balance?
I guess, when do you know that, how do you recognize when it is, let's say you're standing in front of a swimming pool and you don't like to swim, when is it the fear of swimming as opposed to having to just jump in or jump in too fast without learning at least how to float?
It's a good question. I don't know how I would have answered this 6 months ago. Today, I would say that it's strongly connected with the why am I doing this? Why is the success of this project important to me? And having coached on my journeys of the past 15 years, having been in coaching relationships with people who their actions are not meeting up to their why, or their why is not aligned with their actions, that keeps it very front and center by me. In the past 24 hours alone, I had to deal with some muck up here. I don't know, is muck English? I learned it from an Australian roommate. So, but having to deal with thoughts that are like throwing little daggers at me. Are you sure? Are you really
That's
sure?
what we call head trash.
So when I take it back and I say, I know exactly why I'm going all in with this. I know why I am energized to see it through. And it's not about me, because it's I'm blessed and I'm humbled to be in this position. It wasn't my idea. I was given the ball to run with it. And I have mentors who teach me that when Hashem, God, your higher power, brings something to you, you don't stop till you put the ball in the basket. And just because you can't see the path, just because you don't know the solution, doesn't mean that the solution hasn't already been orchestrated. Your job is to not stop. But like the example I give, for example, on the football field, where the quarterback, he knows when to launch. The receiver knows where to keep his eyes and focus on his breathing as he's running. He has no idea. He doesn't have a camera behind his head. He doesn't know that the quarterback already threw the ball, but the quarterback sees the play and sees the player. He sees him running, and he knows time and distance and space, and he launches the ball that as the receiver turns, it lands right there. The amount of coaching that the receiver needs to go through to trust that the play is going to work, because if he's constantly looking over his shoulder, he's got his eyes in the rearview mirror, and then he hits a pole.
That's correct.
So it's a lot of holding on tight, knowing that the purpose of this is huge. It's a worldwide phenomenon, and a game changer for something way beyond something I can ever be. So to stick with it, and knowing that I'm seeing signs for success, I'm seeing pitfalls, seeing signs for success, and knowing that nothing good ever comes without resistance. Nothing good has ever happened without significant challenge, and knowing how to interact with that challenge, that keeps the action going. So go back to your question, how do you create that balance? Anytime there's too much inactivity, there's a big, something's wrong.
Right.
So I'll take you back, for example, to a pivotal moment in this journey. You asked me a question I didn't like. And the question was, this goes back to probably February time. And I still didn't have my head around the whole picture. You knew more than I did, and we're building out the pieces. And you said to me, Shmuly, what else do you need to be confident to sell? And I didn't like the question, because what I heard you saying was, you're not selling. If you're not selling, you're not confident. So what's wrong? But the way you connected the lack of activity on the selling front with confidence, which told me, that's what a good coach does. Points out where there's a weak link, and then learns what has to be put in place to create a solution.
That's right. And we also address the selling, not selling as selling, but really coaching, like really getting your clients or potential clients through their own hurdles, through their own mental talk, through whatever the lack of confidence that they can actually take their organizations to where they need to be, Because when you address that and you go, okay, so what is stopping you? So if the stop is really in terms of the help that they need or they need support, then you have the solution. But if there's something there, you have to clean it up first so they can actually say, okay, yes, you know what? I believe in myself. I can actually do it. Now I have the support that can actually get me to where I want to be.
That's been a huge shift. I'm allergic to sales, to salesmen and sales anything. I've got this antenna and I run. And that's because I was gullible and I fell prey to it too many times. I remember buying the vacuum cleaner that was going to solve my life. And I threw it out eventually and it didn't solve my life. So I've definitely learned from that process. But following your lead, the specific strategic conversation we had on how to have a coaching conversation to interview the client, not to sell them, but to interview, to learn, can we bring them a really good return on investment? Are they in a place where they could use the assistance and benefit from it? That was such a paradigm shift. I on every time I enter a call with a rabbi who I think it might be good for, curiosity goes up. I'm relaxed. I don't have to close anything. Now, obviously, if you don't sell, there's no business. But when you don't have to sell because you help them see that they want this dish on the menu, waitresses don't sell. If they're smart, they engage. What are you in the mood of? How are you feeling today? Are you red wine or are you white wine? Oh, I can get you that. Oh, you want a mixture? I wouldn't recommend it, but we can provide if that's your taste. And so in these coaching calls, to see hope come into their eyes, to hear a tone of voice is, oh, really, that's possible? Oh, really? Oh, you mean you could prevent that? I never want that to happen again. Your team could help me with that. Whether they will or won't hire, that experience alone is a gift that it gives them. And it always turns into something positive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You also do it internally because the leadership style that you have, or being a true executive, you do not hold on to tasks that you know that others can do. And you call it about surrounding yourself with others that have those capabilities, talents, whatever you want to call it, but it frees you up. So you don't wait, oh, I'm going to do it for a few years myself, and then I'm going to hire somebody. No, from the beginning, okay, we're going to hire the executive strata there. We're going to have a VP of operations. We're going to have directors. We're going to have the actual people doing the job under them and empowering them to do it, which I think is a very smart way of doing things.
Smart is interesting that you use the word smart. I to add to it, or to complement that, I would say it's a whole nother fundamental in building a business that if you don't know it, if you've never been taught it and you don't have it, it's vital to know that in order to scale, you have to learn the art and the science and the process of delegating.
It's true.
Which a lot of it is the ability to let go. And you just identify what must be me, what can't be me, and relaxing, knowing that others, I'm not the only person in this universe, for good reason, that others could be taught how to do a great job while you move higher up in the chain of bringing ideas and growth to the company. It's I find that ego trips are a direct challenge to the ability to delegate. And I don't mean that in a not a cliche way and not in an attacky way, just a matter of fact. If I can't delegate, it's almost like so I've been told, take me to task on it. People they thrive on sarcasm. What they're really announcing to the world is, I'm not comfortable in my own skin.
It's true.
I can't talk to you like a human being. I've got to be sarcastic and come across instead of, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I could talk to you with respect.
It's true.
So and I'm not, the intention here is not to make a blanket statement, and I want to backtrack. If somebody struggles with delegation and they're humble, I'm not saying this to offend you. It's more of a, if I can't do it, pause and say, what's stopping me? Because if my limit, if the limit of my impact to the world, on the world, is as much as I could do on my own, I'm missing a global reality that I need to start paying attention to.
That's exactly right. And then you become the leader. Then it's up to, it's the responsibility to become the leader that really leads and empower others under you to succeed and do their best. So I agree 100%. You know, and we created systems for that. We created a really good hiring system that empowers people, makes them feel great. I mean, I've never heard such reactions from candidates. The candidates are like super happy just to talk to you, because you communicate with them with respect. They get to really take a look at and assess their own capabilities and see that this is the right position for them. It's very empowering. So we have a very good hiring process, training. You know, we created all the systems, the processes, procedures. So it's very thoughtful. I mean, is it perfect? Of course not, because we are building it. But is it a certain percentage there, that a very big percentage? Absolutely. And that is the key to success. That's why it's successful, because you're able to deliver, because you put the delivery people there, the people that are actually helping.
And I'm curious, when we look back at this in a few years from now, and we say to ourselves, if we had to do it again from scratch, what will we do different now based on 2 years of experience?
That'd be a very interesting question. And I think it's actually a very good question that all of our listeners right now, they should have to ask themselves, because it's good to look at that question in regards to your current business, in regards to where you are at, and those things that still are out there that haven't been addressed or changed. Will be very good to look at and address those. So I think it's a very smart question.
Thank you. And I think we're actually building part of the answer into the process we're building out, because we know the clientele so well. We're developing a solution for people I coach one-on-one, and I live in their world and their reality. So there aren't too many surprises that are going, I don't think, too many surprises that are going to like shock us. A surprise maybe, but like, I could never have pictured that, area of challenge. No, you know the drill. It's a familiar arena. So that's part of the create the solution in advance. And with all of that, when we look back and say, if I had to do it again, this is what I would have reorganized or done first, and etc. Absolutely.
Well, Shmuly, there's definitely a lot of future. And I'm probably going to interview you again to see how this project progresses. But all those very important lessons, life lessons, executive lessons, leadership lessons are very important. And I'm sure our listeners can learn from it and get inspired. So thank you so much for being again a guest on the podcast. Yes, go ahead.
Can I throw a question your direction?
Of course.
What have you learned in the process of coaching this project so far?
What I learned is the importance of delegation. It's the importance of putting an organization there and not trying to do it all yourself, because that creates the space. You see, if you are doing it all yourself, and you get to a limit, just like you said, very fast. By putting the different people in the right places and empowering them and giving them the tools, you are actually you're opening up. It's like a cube that opens up instead of collapsing. It's kind of like, you can even have an analogy of a balloon. Is like you put air in the balloon and it expands and expands, but there is room, as opposed to having a balloon with nothing. But you're doing it by putting the right people in the right places. And that allows you to reach out in a bigger way. So theoretically, I know that, and also practically, because I work with many companies accomplishing that. But the speed depends on that. And that's why you were able to create in 6 months what other companies do not create in years, because you already did not compromise on those fundamentals.
So which was the piece that you learned? What was the novelty there?
That, well, the novelty is the proof that that's the way it works. I knew that, but it was just went in with like certainty, right? It's like a nail that you drive into a wall exactly at the right, like pinpoints exactly. It's like, yes, no doubt. Because, you go like, oh, well, maybe we can do it another. No, there is no other way. This is the only way of doing it. And that's what I learned. That certainty is what I learned.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
How will that lesson bless your audience?
Because they're going to do the same. They're going to know that when they encounter that doubt, or maybe I should do it another way and whatnot, this is what you need to do.
Thank you for answering.
Yeah, and thank you for interviewing me back. Of course, you have to ask me those questions, and I like it. Shmuly, a pleasure having you here on the podcast. Thank you so much. And thank you for our listeners for listening.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.